friends. So nice to see you. I'm Christiana Gaudet. I am your Tarot Fairy Godmother. I am live on my YouTube channel, and it is time for another free class. If you happen to be watching the replay, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And if you are here live with us, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you all so much for being here. And I do want to make a special shout out to our members. You know who our members are because we can see their names are in green. These are people who are making a monthly commitment to support this channel. We really appreciate you. Happy to see all of you. So glad that you are here. So today is Tuesday, but it's a very special Tuesday. That would be TWOSDAY. Why? Because it's a really cool date, 2/22/2022. So there's a lot of twos there. And there's been a lot of conversation about, what does that mean spiritually? What energies are available to us with a special date like that? And I think different people process it in different ways. But I would like to process it from a tarot perspective. And I thought this would be the perfect date to explore the twos of tarot. So, and thank you, Dave Victor, for suggesting it. That's exactly right. I would like you to separate from your tarot decks the High Priestess, Justice, and Judgment. These are the 3-2 cards of the major arcana. Now we know the High Priestess is actually numbered 2, and we know that. Justice being card 11, 1 + 1 is 2, and Judgment being card 20, 2 + 0 is 2. So that's why we want those 3 cards. And Clumsy Clairvoyance, I want to thank you so much for the super sticker. Super chats and super stickers are another way you can support this channel. I really appreciate that. And Clumsy Clairvoyance is also a member. So thank you so much for your support. Other ways that you can support this channel, if you're here and you have not yet subscribed, hit subscribe and hit the bell so you'll know when I'm live and when I post new videos. And if you're here, like this video. The more likes we get, the better I do. And so I really appreciate that. So it's so nice to see everyone here. Thank you all so much for being here. So we've got the 3 major arcana twos. And then, of course, you want the 4 minor arcana twos. You can work with any deck, although I would comment if you're working with a Crowley deck or a Crowley-based deck or a Marseille deck, instead of Justice, you're going to be looking at Strength, because in those decks, Strength is 11 and Justice is 8. And that's okay too. That will be a different take, but hey, it is what it is, and that's fine. All right. So go ahead and get your cards together. And the first thing I want to do is talk about what is the energy of the number 2. What do we see that 2 says to us in tarot? What do we see that 2 makes available for us? If you were doing magic with the number 2, what kind of magic would you want to do with the number 2? What do we associate with the number 2? Go ahead and chat those things in. Tell me, what are your keywords for the number 2? What are the powers that you associate with the number 2? I'll give you a couple of moments to chat those things in. Your keywords for 2. What does 2 mean? What does 2 manifest? What does 2 tell us? Okay, Christina, nice to see you. Thanks for being a member here. Balance and harmony. Perfect. Okay, keep them coming. Keep them coming. Let's see some more. What do you associate with 2? Christina, choices. Absolutely. Absolutely. What else? Keep them coming. And while we wait for people to ring in on this, I want to remind you that we've got a Zoom class coming up on Thursday. We're doing the elemental major arcana. We're going to take a deep dive into the elemental associations of the major arcana cards. So you got to go to my website to get a ticket for that, christianagodet.com. You can also, if you're local, you can join us in person. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. Dave, 2, balance, equality, level playing field, backup plan, clumsy clairvoyance. Thank you for being a member and thanks for the super sticker. Duality, Jeannie Mnuchin, and thanks for being here. Nice to see you. Thanks for being a member here. Choice, balance, and partnership. Yep. Teresa C, nice to see you. Thanks for being a member here. Partnership. Cheryl Watson, so nice to see you. Even, 2 is an even number, absolutely. Claire C, nice to see you. Thanks for being a member here. Balance, choice, and harmony. Hey, Carol Jackson, so happy to see you here. Partnership, absolutely. Teresa C, I just overscrolled. Unity, very good. Betty Flesher, so nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Duality. A new 222, man, you're in the right place. Femme fatale, that's interesting. Intuition and cooperative, all right. Lisa Harmon, so nice to see you. Thanks for being a member here. Balance, equilibrium, either or, right? And that can be like yin yang as well, right? Mary Bocaranda, so nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Attraction, interesting. Ashley, the meeting of two minds. Yolanda, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member here. Messages and kids. Huh, where'd you get kids from? That's an interesting one. And messages. Actually, I want to know about that. How does 2, I'm not challenging you on it, I just want to know your thinking. How does 2 show up for you as messages and kids? Chara Saddlemeyer, so nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member here. Partnership. Snock, nice to see you. Wisdom. Chara Saddlemeyer, balance. Hey, Ronnie, so nice to see you. It was great to catch up with you this weekend when I was in the Tampa area. Harmony. Disco Bunny. Kristen, nice to see you. Duality, decisions, balance, partnership, alignment. Dave, the body is made up of a lot of parts that occur in 2s, right? That whole binary thing, right? Teresa, polarity. ZL Palmer. What was the 3rd major arcana card? I have High Priestess and Justice. Also, Judgment, being card 20. 2, 2 plus 0 is 2. Judgment. Ashley, twins. Lisa, kids, it takes 2 to tango. But why wouldn't that be 3 like the Empress? 2 is really only the potential, in my opinion. Hey, Jake5345, that's Robin. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. Clumsy clairvoyance, marriage, merging, twins, right? And then there's that Jungian word, syzygy. Syzygy, it's the divine couple, right? The archetype of the lovers, if you will. Okay, Claire C, mercy and severity juxtaposition, right? Right, hey, Zenobia, I should have figured that out. Oh, Yolanda, so you're thinking about the pages as 2s. So that's a really interesting thing. And I think some people do. You know, when you think about numerology ascribed to the court cards, there are a number of different systems for that. Some people would see the pages as 1s, the knights as 2s, the queens as 3s, and the kings as 4s. Some people would see the pages as 2s, the knights as 3s, the queens as 4s, and the kings as 5s. So it depends on the system. And I am actually one who does not tend to number the court cards. I think their ranks have their value, so I don't think about them as numbers because they're not numbered. But, you bring up a very good point, Yolanda, that in some traditions, in some systems, people do ascribe a numeric value to the court cards. Betty says choices. Yes. A new 222. What about the Fool? Oh, very smart. Very smart. The Fool, considered by some to be 22 in the tarot, which would actually make it a 4, not a 2. And I don't love that. I have to tell you, I feel like I don't like to ascribe numbers to cards that don't have numbers on them, right? And so I feel like the Fool is card 0 for a reason. But I recognize that I'm breaking tradition, even with Mary K. Greer on that one. Mary K. Greer does the Fool as a 4. So it is Emperor, Death, Fool, which is an interesting cycle if you put it all together. It's an interesting story. And Dave agrees that if there are 10 numbered cards, the pages would come in at 11, making them a 2, which is, again, that is a school of thought, for sure. There is another school of thought that just starts numbering them again, so making the pages a 1. And then there's my school of thought, which is they don't get numbers. So, again, there's no right and wrong with any of this, is there? It's really all how you see it. All right. And Zenobia, personal power. So that's an interesting one for 2. And I will tell you recently, and for those of you who are members, I did a video about this fairly recently around this concept in the members only folder, that I've started to be thinking about the 2s as saying, just stay in your own lane. Just stay in your own lane. And I think there's a lot of personal power associated with that, right? Clumsy Clairvoyant says options, yin and yang. Absolutely. Horace Van Dunn, the Fool, the King of Nothing. And now I'm going to have that song in my head for the rest of the day. And of course, we've just dated ourselves by knowing that song. But that's okay. That's okay. So when we think about the power of 2, so if you were doing magic and you wanted to incorporate the number 2, what kind of magic would you be doing? Certainly love magic. Certainly magic to make a, yeah, Dave, that was the song we were thinking about. Absolutely. It is a great song. Anyway, what kind of magic would you do with the number 2? When would you incorporate the number 2 in magic? Certainly love magic. Wanting to do a meeting, a one-on-one conversation and wanting it to go well. 2 might be good. To bonding magic, right? Absolutely. Thank you, Zenobia. Appreciate that. Jenny, staying in your own lane is also accepting your direction for your best self. Yes, yes. Claire, the inner world and the outer world. Absolutely. Absolutely. So 2, Jeannie, collaboration. Sure, absolutely. The magic of collaboration. Now, what about peace? Do you see peace as being associated with 2? And would you, if you were looking for magic for peace or for calm, might you incorporate the number 2 in that magic? Clumsy Clairvoyance, I would use 2 candles possibly for a partnership or to integrate, connect also with spirit or with a guide. Claire C, to settle an argument. That's good. Horst Van Dun, for issues of duality. Very good. Yep, totally makes sense. So now that we have a handle on the concept of two, and Horst Van Dun says magic for balance. Yeah, totally makes sense. Yes. Very good. Zenobia, I think you could take, like, literally use two candles instead of one, two. And you could carve numbers into a candle as well. All right. So now let's take a look at the individual cards. And we want to look at how two is expressed in these cards. Oh, right. Twos for birthdays. Yes, 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 yes. You could use that too. You could use those birthday candles that are numbers. That would be like such smart number candle magic. That's a great idea. Jeannie, beginnings and endings coming together. Change. That's cool. That's cool. And now I'm just wanting to go out and get some two candles, man. I wish I'd thought of it. I could be burning them in the background for this class. That's really smart. Clumsy clairvoyant, shadow work with the twos for magic. Makes a lot of sense. I love it. I love it. All right. Now, I saw a couple of people talk about femininity and wisdom for the number two. And it is interesting, of course, that the High Priestess, which is about femininity in the number two, wisdom, sorry. High Priestess is about femininity and wisdom and is card two. Oh, this is an interesting one. Dave, the shadow side of two, duality being two-faced, right, duplicity. It's the shadow side of two. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Zenobia, I spend more time in Dollar Tree getting magical supplies. I swear to goodness. And yes, you should definitely support your local witchy shops, because they're owned by members of our community. But you can get some good deals at Dollar Tree. It's true. It's true. But get other number candles while you're there, because number magic is a great thing. It absolutely is. All right. So the question is, do we see wisdom in the number two, or do we think about wisdom with the number two because we think about wisdom with the High Priestess, or is the High Priestess number two because two is indeed about wisdom? It's an interesting question. An interesting question. Horst Van Dun, we were thinking about, Dave was thinking about sort of the shadow side of two, as, could be. All right. So let's talk about, first of all, keywords. Well, first of all, I want to know, do you really, do you see wisdom in all the twos? Is wisdom something you associate with two? If you were looking for wisdom, would you do magic with the number two? And I would argue if it was wisdom to make a good decision, I absolutely would. But I've never really thought about wisdom as a keyword for two without bringing in the energy of the High Priestess. What do you think? What do you think? Is the number two inherently associated with wisdom in your practice? Let me know. And then let me know what keywords you associate with the High Priestess. And while you're doing that, I just want to share some concepts about the symbolism of the Weight High Priestess. The pomegranates in the backdrop are really important. And they show up again on the High Priestess, on the Empress's gown. So 2 is the High Priestess, 3 is the Empress. The High Priestess is virginal. The pomegranates represent her fertility, but her fertility is only conceptual because, in fact, she is virginal. Now, the Empress is pregnant, and so that fertility is now coming into fruition with the Empress. So the other thing about the pomegranates is they are the food of the land of the dead. And we see the High Priestess as traveling into the underworld, which is where that shadow work. This is a great card for shadow work. We see that her gown turns into the waters of the subconscious and flows off the page. And in later major arcana cards, you'll see a river running through some of the cards, and that is the High Priestess's gown, which are the waters of the subconscious. Now, the 2 pillars, Boaz and Jachin, these are the pillars of the outside of Solomon's temple, the temple of wisdom. And this is where we see wisdom brought in. We also notice that she has many different religious symbols. She wears the crown of the triple goddess. She has an equal arms cross. She holds the Torah. She has the crescent moon at her feet. Now, you'll also see these pillars show up in many other major arcana cards. So it's interesting to note that the influence, graphically, the influence of the High Priestess shows up in many other major arcana cards with the water and with the pillars. And I think that's a really interesting point about the power of this card. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Oh, here we go. Yep, Disco Bunny. The 2s are about wisdom as discernment. Absolutely, yes. And you see discernment. Okay, so everyone make a note of this. Disco Bunny, Kristen, throws out discernment as a key word for all of these 2 cards. And so I want you to think about that. As we look at each one of them, I would agree with that completely. And I love that. Hey, Jerry Bohannon, nice to see you. Jeannie, my shirt matches the High Priestess. And Samantha says all 3 of the major cards are about wisdom, sure. And Clumsy Clairvoyance makes a good point. I don't associate 2s in general with wisdom, but it's possible to see wisdom in the number, sure. Oh, interesting. Okay, good to know. From Ice-Knock, we were given wisdom for number 2 at a recent workshop given by the Amberstones. Fair enough. And they do like a very Kabbalistic approach, do Wald and Ruth Ann. So fair enough. Thank you for that. Thank you. The High Priestess is Captain Janeway, too busy saving the universe to have a sex life. Except I'm pretty sure that in her life, Janeway had sex because we know she had a boyfriend, Mark, right? She left him behind. Whereas the High Priestess has not. Hey, Zenobia! Thank you so much for becoming a member of this channel. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Clumsy Clairvoyance. For some reason, I've always seen her as indifferent in many ways. I think she has a certain aloof quality, and she is certainly silent. And silence can be seen as indifference, whether or not it is. Yolanda, High Priestess, Virginal, Virgo, Earth, Demeter, and actually Demeter's daughter, Persephone, who traveled into the underworld, ate 6 seeds of pomegranates, which is why we have winter. That was the short version. But yeah, you're absolutely right. She is in that story cycle, without a doubt. Yes, Horst Van Dunn, the pillars are a big part of the Kabbalistic tree of life. Yes. Yes, these would be the two outer pillars of the Kabbalistic tree of life, the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. Dave, discernment, the ability to see two sides to things. Yes. Hey, Jake, nice to see you. 2 is often an underestimated number because we don't value feminine energy in our society. Interesting. Interesting. Hey, Zenobia, speaking of happy emojis, now that you remember, if you look at the emojis, you now have 4 members only emojis that you can use. Yes, indeed. Okay, Betty. Could the 2s be about the unknown? 2 of Cups, will this work out? 2 of Wands, the unknown. High Priestess, mystery. Okay, so can we make a list? Hang on. Do I have paper here? I need paper. Hang on. I think I do. On the, like, underneath my desk over here. I think I do have some paper. Because, there we go. There we go. Yes, I do. I think we need to make a list of these words that we're thinking, these keywords, so that when we go through all the cards, we can look and see if we see, if we see these things. So the first one was discernment. And then we have the unknown. Okay, so I'm making a list and we'll check it twice. Well, anyway. Okay, and a new 222, people born on the 2nd inherently are intuitive and wise. Both Ronna George and Michelle Welsh are born on the 2nd of the month. That's fun. Okay. You found it, Zenobia. On Jake, I actually get Lilith vibes from the High Priestess. Sure. I think it's really interesting to think about different mythologies and which mythological characters we would associate with these archetypes. And certainly a lot of tarot artists and designers have made decks that use these mythological characters in tarot, for sure. Okay. So can we talk for a minute? Horst Van Dunn was born on the 2nd. That's good. Julia, hey, nice to see you, Julia. Thanks for being a member here. 2s as members. I'm sorry, as members, as mirrors. 2s as mirrors. I love that. Michelle Welsh, she presented at StarCon. She owns Soultopia. She wrote The Magic of Connection. You know Michelle. We all know Michelle. And Julia was born on the 22nd. Very good. All right. So can we talk about the High Priestess in a reading? And I think it's so interesting because there is this thought that, like, in a reading, major arcana cards will always speak of big spiritual energies. And sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. I mean, I've seen the High Priestess show up to talk about the profession of nursing or cosmetology. I've seen the High Priestess show up to talk about perfectionism and feeling guilty for not being perfect. I've seen the High Priestess reversed show up to talk about disrespect of women and misogyny. And so when we think about the stories of the High Priestess, the spiritual lessons of the High Priestess, the archetype of the High Priestess, all of those things help us inform our understanding of the card. But in a reading, it can be a lot of different things. And so go ahead and share some of your thoughts here. And clumsy clairvoyance, the 2nd house in astrology is that of wants and basic necessities. And the 2nd sign in astrology is Taurus, which is the Hierophant. And that's interesting because the Hierophant is sort of the masculine counterpart to the High Priestess. Originally, the Hierophant being the Pope and the High Priestess being the Popess. So that was an interesting connection there. So let me know, like, how do you see the High Priestess in readings? How does she show up for you? And go ahead and tag it High Priestess. And let me go on to Justice. Now, discernment. Do you see discernment in the Justice card? I certainly do. Do you see the unknown in the Justice card? I do. I do, because we never know if things are going to be fair. And we never know if the decisions we're making are actually fair. So yes, absolutely. Jake, the High Priestess reversed, hurricanes, rains, and flooding issues. Sure, that totally makes sense. I've never seen it that way, but that absolutely makes sense. Betty, High Priestess, sometimes the mistress or the other woman, right? The woman in silence, the secret woman. Jake, and if you put the 2 and 5 together, you have the Chariot, which is Cancer, the ruler of the moon. Absolutely. And Zenobia, 2 represents balance and cooperation in numerology also. Very good. Sue, nice to see you. Not a problem. You can always watch the first half in replay. Okay, so talk to me about justice. On a larger spiritual level, I see the Egyptian story of Maat, the goddess of the underworld, who measures your heart against a feather. And if you're weighed down by your wrongdoings, you cannot go farther. And so that's interesting that both of these in their stories, in their archetypes, can have underworld traveling. In a reading, I see justice very often having to do with legal stuff, but also issues of fairness. And when it's reversed, man, you got screwed. Not fair. Not fair at all. Okay, we're on justice, not yet judgment, Chara, but let's remember that self-reflection for judgment. That's an interesting thing. And so Julia, High Priestess displays a sense of detachment. So I think we do see that concept. And she is a water card, but not a terribly emotional water card, although she dives into like all the feelings, all the things, man, but she doesn't necessarily express it. Lisa, High Priestess, I see that, which is veiled, right? Dave, Justice, the mission of the justice system is to uncover the unknown. So true. Okay, so Chara, what you meant justice as self-reflection. Interesting. Interesting. Can you expound on that a little bit? I'll buy it, but I want to hear. Oh, interesting. The 2 ribbons that are part of the capes, of the cape in justice. Right. And with justice, 2 sides to every story, right? Lisa, justice, fairness, equality. Sure, sure. Or you're going to marry an attorney, or you're getting a speeding ticket, especially if it comes up with the Chariot man, you're getting a speeding ticket. And so Samantha, in this card, you also see wisdom. Fair, fair, makes sense. And that's a good point. So do we see discernment in this card? Yes. Do we see the unknown in this card? Yes. And so wisdom is another word that has really come up around too. So do we see wisdom in this card? And I would say absolutely yes. Absolutely. And Betty, justice, responsibility, cause and effect. Yes. Clumsy clairvoyance with the High Priestess, I also see as the witch or the shaman, one connected to the veil. Sure. Chara, with justice, step back and take a look at how you're looking at the situation. Sure. Sure, right. You know, because with justice, there's always a sense of the victim and who's the victim, and are you, you know, are you, is the way you're perceiving it the healthiest or the most honest way? For sure, for sure. All right. So let's move on to judgment. So judgment is such an interesting card. The mythology that we see here is the Christian judgment day, the rapture. And what we see is the angel Gabriel blowing his horn and corpses coming out of coffins to be born in the new day. So that's a very interesting image. It comes just, it's the penultimate card of the major arcana. And so there is this sense of looking back on your whole journey and sort of judging your journey in a way. Zenobia, will I write all the keywords? Will I repeat all the keywords? I will not. But you can watch this later. Remember that these videos, the link that brought you here will also bring you to the replay. Jake, the High Priestess, the self-reflective woman that goes within to find the answer. Justice, her rising and making her judgment based on the logic from the wisdom she's gained. And Betty, I associate the Justice card with the King of Swords. That would make sense. They're both air. That totally makes sense. And again, if you want to learn more about elemental associations with the Major Arcana, take my class on Thursday on Zoom. All right, so what are your keywords for judgment? Betty, judgment is my most difficult card to understand. So let's talk about that. And a new 222 says 2 followed by a 0 magnifies the power of 2. Clumsy clairvoyance, justice can also be a lack of emotion, which is good at times in order to be extremely fair. Lisa, judgment as karma. Jake, to me, the Queen of Swords is a mini version of the Justice card. David, isn't judgment a higher version of justice, complete with a verdict and consequences for your life choices? Samantha, I agree with Betty, right? Judgment's a hard card, right? Zenobia, the High Priestess, has the Torah in it, and I found a note that says the Torah begins with the letter Beth, which has the numerical value too. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing. That's so good. I love that. So let me share with you how I see judgment in a reading. Oh, Jake, this is good. Judgment, an intense wake-up call based on your karmic connections with others. So for me, judgment is also often closure, getting closure to something, the final analysis. It's over, the journey's over, and now we're looking at, did you do a good job? Did you not do a good job? How'd you do? And it's looking at it from the very end. We're at the end, and so now we can see it. Generally speaking, I would see it as a job well done, generally speaking. But it can be about needing to get closure. Jeannie says judgment endings and also one's calling. And that's an interesting thing, the call to awaken the sleeping hero, the wake-up call. The idea of finding one's calling. I've also seen this card associated with mediumship and communicating with spirit. Clumsy clairvoyance, judgment can often mean forgiveness and atonement. Sure. So with judgment, when we think about wisdom, we think about we now have the wisdom of being able to see the whole thing, the whole journey. We can see it all. And with discernment, there is this sense, like judgment is not typically about being judgmental, but it is about that final analysis. So there is that discernment. Mary Kay Greer says, Zenobia, a journey from one state to another. Sure. Christina, awakening, to recognize everything you have accomplished so far and reconcile yourself to it. Absolutely. And so these are the 2 cards of the Major Arcana. Do we see wisdom in all 3? Do we see discernment in all 3? Do we see the unknown in all 3? And I think with judgment, we know what came before. We don't really know what's going to come next. And we know that there are endings and new beginnings. We don't know what will come next. Betty, judgment, rebirth. Yes, absolutely. And it can be like the Phoenix, although it's not a fire card. Is it? Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. Hang on a minute. Yes. Judgment can be either fire or water, depending on your tradition. So it very much can be a fire card, and we can think about it as the Phoenix. And Jake, judgment reversed sees gossip. And V, nice to see you. The angel Gabriel is giving life to the dead. Blessed life. Resurrection and rebirth. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So now let's move on to the 4 minor arcana cards. Yes, judgment is Pluto. That's exactly right. And there's a couple of different traditions on that, which is why either fire or water. And we'll talk about that further when we do my class. Cheryl Jefferson, hi, 22 likes. Ha, that's awesome. But I want more because I got more than that here, more people than that here. So like this video, please. All right, let's look at the 4 twos here. And V says in judgment, the family is rising from death and are together. Absolutely. All right, so let's start with the 2 of Cups. We certainly see, the number 2 here as far as relationship or partnership. But we also, with the caduceus here, we see the healing power of love. And so there's something really special in this relationship, what's going on here. Now, with the 2 of Pentacles, we see a lot of drain on our resources. There is this sense of, like my mother used to say, my father would get paid once a month. And at the end of the month, things would get a little lean. She would say there was too much month at the end of the money. I often think about this with this card, that whatever the resources are, time, money, or energy, there's not a lot, so you have to juggle them. And this can also be working more than one job or having more than one priority. The 2, okay, let's see, clumsy clairvoyance, 2 of Cups, admiration. That's a good one, I like that. Oh, and Zenobia likes the healing power of love. Yeah, baby. That's a good one, right? I like it. I like it. So, 2 of Pentacles. It's the one time in the minor arcana that we see the infinity symbol. We see it a few times in major arcana. But in the minor arcana, only this once. And so there is this sense of being infinitely able to juggle what we need to juggle, even if it's not easy. Dave, 2 of Cups, we see the double helix within the caduceus, life at its most basic state, sure. Lisa Harmon, 2 of Cups, unity and compromise. Horace Van Dunn, 2 of Pentacles, figure 8 of infinity, a process in this plane that never ends, right? And I feel like, there are days, man. There are days when this is really a mixed blessing, where we're happy for our ability to do what we have to do, but good God, I feel like this card can come up sometimes when you need a break. And so when you think about the number 2, do you see that infinite loop? That's such an interesting thing. So 2 of Swords. With the 2 of Swords, one of the things I like to think about is that she's crossed off her heart chakra, which means her decisions need to be made with the head rather than the heart. And she's blindfolded, so she cannot be influenced by anyone else. She has to make her own choices, her own decisions. And it's interesting to remember that Aleister Crowley calls this the card of peace. And so sometimes you have to be at peace with not yet knowing what to do. I know I have a decision to make, but I'm not going to make it until I'm sure, and I'm at peace with that. That's a cool emoji, Yolanda. Yeah, we see the infinity sign in a number of major arcana cards, but no other minor arcana card. Okay, Jake, the Two of Pentacles is Jupiter in Capricorn, feeling constantly limited by your surroundings in daily life. That totally makes sense. Lisa, Two of Pentacles, walking on a tightrope. Sure. Clumsy Clairvoyance, Two of Pentacles is the silliest looking card in tarot, but in a good way. It is a funky hat that the Two of Pentacles is wearing, man. That is a funky, that's like a condom hat, I swear to goodness. Christina, would the twos in the minor arcana relate to our third eye? I'm listening. Tell me more. Your thoughts? I'd love to hear it. Go ahead. Tell me where that comes from and what your thoughts are. Dave, Two of Pentacles, ships tossed severely on the sea, could go either way for them. True. All right. So that Two of Swords, and it's rocky here too. But to be at peace with not knowing. So let's go back to the unknown. Do we see the unknown in these three cards? I think so. Do we see discernment in these three cards? I think so. Do we see wisdom in these three cards? I would say yes. I would absolutely say yes. Okay. My favorite two is the Two of Wands. For me, this is the card of manifestation. Recognizing that if you can see it, if you can think about it, if you can dream it, if you can plan it, you can do it. And you have the whole power of the world in your hand. So I love this card. And in this card, I also see discernment. I also see the unknown. And I also see great wisdom. So let me know your thoughts around the Two of Swords and the Two of Wands. Lisa, Two of Swords, a decision based on neutrality, right? Can I tell you a quick Two of Swords story? I've told this to a few of you before, but it bears repeating. So I'm in my office in Central Village in Connecticut. And my first reading at like 9 a.m. that morning is this woman. And it comes up in the cards that she's thinking about a divorce, but not sure. And at the very end, like we go back and forth, we can come up with yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, no idea. Pull one card at the end, and it's the Two of Swords. It's not time to figure it out. So she makes another appointment, and I don't recognize her as the same person, so I let it happen. My last appointment that night, same person. She liked the reading. She wanted more. So she comes back. We do the whole thing all over again, still trying to figure out divorce, yes, divorce, no. At the end of the reading, pulling a final card once again, Two of Swords. She will have to make a decision, but it is not time to make the decision yet. And you have to hold space for indecision. So these two flowers, Zenobia, I believe are actually a dorje, which is a tool that goes along with the singing bowl. Yeah, Clumsy Clairvoyance likes the condom hat, right? Dave, unknown. Two of Swords is blindfolded, waiting moon. Rocks in the water might be a danger to ships at a higher tide. Yep. Jake, Benabel Wen calls the Two of Wands the Alexander the Great card. That's good. Lisa, Two of Wands, patience. Man, that's another one. Patience. Do we see patience in all the two cards? Certainly, I see it in the High Priestess. Certainly in justice, you have to be patient for justice. For judgment, I think there's patience. I'm going to argue that in our master list of keywords for all twos, that patience would be there. Absolutely. Betty Flesher for the Two of Wands, boldness and personal power, sure. Julia, Two of Swords is moon in Libra. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So now, when we look at these 7 cards, let me ask you, with all of these, do we see discernment? Do we see the unknown? Do we see wisdom? Do we see patience in all of them? And then my new one, the admonishment to stay in your own lane, to not be worried about what other people are thinking or what other people are doing or who's saying what or who's doing what. You just do you, boo, and stay in your own lane. And Dave says, Eden Gray says the flowers are rose and lily. Rose means desire, lily for pure thought. Sure, sure. But the way they are with that cross, I've also heard is a dorje as well. And in fact, I think I saw that in Eden Gray as well, but I could be wrong. I can always be wrong. All right. So what do you think? What do you think about, with all of these cards, staying in your own lane? What do you think about that one? And what do you think about these words we've collected? Discernment, the unknown, wisdom, and patience. Does that make sense? And does that sort of break down the number 2? So now, since today is this magical day, clumsy clairvoyance too can also indicate bipolarness, right? Yeah, there's a shadow side to everything. And Yolanda, I see 2 as karma, right? What goes around comes around. Sure, sure. So since we are at this day that is this powerful time, with all of this 2 energy, see, Jake, 2, learning to trust your own intuition versus what's external. Oh, yes. Oh, can we add intuition to this master list? I would say there's intuition in every one of these cards. And Betty says hope. I like that one too. Absolutely. So I think we've got like a nice, this like master list of keywords. Now, my question is, Jeannie, staying in your own lane is staying between duality in a liminal place. Woo. I love that. I love that. So when we think about the energy of 2, I want you to look at all of these cards and think about which one of these are each an expression of the 2 energy, but each has its own power. Which one of these is something you need more of in your life? We are at this powerful time of 2. Let's do some magic. Which of these cards represents 1, 2 energy that you need more of in your life right now? Karen, I often experience intuition with judgment, especially using intuition to brings closure. Yeah, I'm adding intuition to our list. So now we've got discernment, the unknown, wisdom, patience, intuition, and staying in your own lane. I like hope too. I would add hope to that list. I like hope. Okay, so I think we have a good handle. So which of these cards would you choose as something that you need more of in your life? And I'm choosing my favorite, the 2 of Wands, my own ability to bring into being whatever it is I want to bring into being. So what I want you to do is take whichever 2 card. Von Ray says the 2 of Cups. Betty needs the High Priestess. So figure out, of these cards, which one do you need more of? And take it and hold it and breathe with it and use this powerful moment, this time of 2s, to bring this energy into your life. Whichever card you choose, take it, breathe with it. Think about what your life is going to look like when you have more of this energy. See that and see it in the present moment. And bring this energy into your life. So take it, see it, speak it into being, think it into being, and take it to your heart, using the energy of this special day. And now, as a final exercise, Chidi needs 2 cards. As a final exercise, once you've done that, yes, you can pick 2 cards. Yes, you can. Go ahead. You can pick 2. And then as a final exercise, once you've done the magic bit, let's do a divination. Let's take just these 7 cards and let's ask the universe, whose lesson, each of these cards has a lesson, whose lesson should I focus on at this time? So we are choosing face up 1 or 2 cards that we want to manifest in our lives. And then we're going to choose 1 card face down as the lesson from the universe that we need. Well, since I started out asking for 1 and now I've let you do 2, I suppose you can do 3 as well, Zenobia. I suppose. All right. And so then, as our final exercise, 1 card, Judgment. So for me, I think this is a lot about focusing on the lesson of getting to a next level, putting closure to one thing, opening up to another. I have a big project that I need to finish, so I think that's part of it. So do the magic and then do the divination to use the power of this powerful day. Now, if you happen to be watching this video on a different day, that's okay. Still do the magic and still do the divination. It will still be powerful for you, especially since this is being recorded on the most magical Tuesday. Tuesday, the 22nd of the 2nd month in the year 2022. Karen, I said HP and I pulled the HP too. There you go. There you go. So I want to thank you all so much for your kind attention here. I want to remind you that our March classes are already up, and that includes our March members only class. So make sure you check that out. Which card were we supposed to turn over? Hey, Jean Trewatha, so nice to see you. Zenobia, we were pulling 1 card at random. What if I got the same card that I chose when I asked the second question? A couple of people did. It just means that you're manifesting and focusing on the lessons of the same card. Right. And I think a lot of people had that happen. And Zenobia says maybe leave that card on your altar overnight tonight if you like. All right. So as we come to the end of our time together, I want to thank you all so much for being here. A special shout out to our members. And I do want to remind you, we have a Room and Zoom class coming up on Thursday. If you happen to be local and want to join us in person, you can. If you'd like to join us on Zoom, you can. We are taking a deep dive into the elements of each major arcana card and what that tells us about the major arcana. Oh, baby cakes, a bird flew in your house. Wow. Okay. Okay. Jeannie's doing personal magic with the 2 of Wands and the 2 of Cups. And the divination, justice, to always look for and manifest fairness. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending part of this very special day with us. And I hope to see you soon. Claire C., I need help. Judgment and the 2 of Swords will get me there. There we go. All right, my friends, thank you very much. I will look forward to seeing you soon. Hope to see you in class on Thursday. And again, please check out all we've got coming up. I will also be back at noon on Thursday with the Tarot Topics weekly newsletter recap. Thank you all so very much. We'll see you soon.